But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it.
You let them in.
President, open your
You let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit. I want to make a quick clarification about the neo-Nazis at the Turning Point event. They were outside protesters. My point was more metaphorical, that you embraced them at your thing, I felt.
But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked and you went on stage with it and just
things simply became crazy. After Joe Rogan and Charlie Kirk tag team and completely destroy her, Whoopi Goldberg loses it. What did they say? How did she go from composed to inconsolable in less time than you can say awkward TV moment? Stay tuned, because this spicy showdown is much more exciting than your favorite drama series, and I promise you won't want to miss a second of it.
Welcome back. In Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me, and it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So, the state...
America. It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck when a legend starts to falter, but instead of just going downhill, it becomes a full-fledged circus. That's exactly what happened when Whoopi Goldberg chose to enter the political mud pit, and was then steamrolled by Joe Rogan and Charlie Kirk. Two men from quite different planets, each with their own verbal flamethrower, joined forces, well, not really joined forces, to completely destroy Whoopi in ways she most likely didn't anticipate.
Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept the View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there, of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country, that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they...
Let's establish the setting first, Neo. Whoopi Goldberg, pop culture's one-woman tornado. A woman who has appeared in everything from daytime talk programs to movies chose to speak out on a subject that was already a ticking time bomb. It might have been about politics or racism, or it could have been one of those contentious cultural issues that everyone is obsessed with. Before the explosion, you could practically hear the smoke whistle as the fuse was lit.
Shift between right and left authoritarianism, and now people don't recognize that if you just stopped looking at it in terms of red and blue, look at the actions, whether it's war, suppression of free speech, pharmacological interventions that are mandatory, whatever it is, that used to all be associated with the authoritative right, the authoritarian right, and now those things are being embraced by the left. And I just think it's just an ideology thing, and I think we get confused and we think we're on the right side, and if it's our side that's saying this, for sure that's the right thing to do, and no one's critically thinking about this.
Joe Rogan is the gateway drug for young men that thought they were Democrats to become MAGA. Joe Rogan is the bridge, and on that bridge they'll see RFK.
Now let's have Joe Rogan. Joe is not your average media commentator. He's like that guy in the room who's read a ton of podcasts, experimented with everything from MMA to mushroom science, and is just prepared to take on any nonsense that comes his way in a direct, no-frills manner. He's not there to be nice or sidestep punches. Instead, he's the verbal pit bull who just digs in and won't let go until you're pleading for mercy.
The reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last weekend.
Yeah, they have nothing.
Now let's have Joe Rogan. Joe is not your average media commentator. He's like that guy in the room who's read a ton of podcasts, experimented with everything from MMA to mushroom science, and is just prepared to take on any nonsense that comes his way in a direct, no-frills manner. He's not there to be nice or sidestep punches. Instead, he's the verbal pit bull who just digs in and won't let go until you're pleading for mercy.
Is that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in, and they always bring on a token conservative woman and they yell over her and silence her, and they did that with Meghan McCain, and they did that with what is that other blonde woman from Survivor? Do you remember her, Jamie? She was always yelling. I mean, it's a bizarre.
After hearing Whoopi's statement, Joe, with his trademark hold my kombucha vibe, proceeds to dismantle, tear apart, and leave it so shredded that even 1,000 shredded cheese bags would look less messy. It's like watching someone attempt to explain quantum physics while wearing oven mitts. You know it's going to go sideways. Joe grinds her arguments through a combination of skepticism and reasoning, with a dash of, "Are you serious?" thrown in for good measure. His approach is overt. It's like seeing a verbal cage battle. Joe is there to reveal the flaws in Whoopi's reasoning with the dexterity of a surgeon brandishing a chainsaw. He is not interested in engaging in courteous discussion. The entire situation becomes a lesson in public roasting, as the facts are, revealed one by one, and the presumptions are questioned like an overzealous referee. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ring, you have Charlie Joe prefers the calm, steady grind, but Kirk Charlie, the political firebrand, has a completely other flavor and can talk faster than a coffee-fueled auctioneer and hurl blows sharper than a samurai sword. Charlie finds Whoopi's remarks to be not only incorrect, but also representative of everything he believes is wrong with the media elite of today. He is all about the swift, feisty stab in the stomach.
I hate the whole thing. And frankly, that show, you want to talk about a show that set women back, is The View. You want to talk about that show? If the CIA is engineering, Antifa and fucking the Capitol riot, some crazy misogynist engineered The View, because there's nothing worse than The View. In terms of there are so many brilliant women out there. None of them are on The View. None of them have gone near the set of The View. I mean, they have brought in the lowest tier of the, what is it, the Y chromosome?
No, double
X.
X.
Okay.
Double X.
They brought in the lowest of the double X's.
Charlie doesn't waste time on cliches. Instead, he launches into a torrent of scathing criticism that reads like they were penned by a 14-year-old keyboard warrior who recently discovered political Twitter. He calls out the performative virtue, signaling, makes fun of the contradictions, and essentially portrays Whoopi as the epitome of everything that is out of date in celebrity commentary. Whoopi's viewpoint was flattened and gasping for breath when his words struck like a speeding freight train. It's more about gut-punching the entire argument and making it appear absurd than it is about carefully analyzing each issue. Charlie uses blunt force trauma, given with the assurance of someone who is well-versed in pressing the right buttons, to generate the most indignation and media attention. The real kicker is about to come. It was like two missiles fired from separate silos, both aimed directly at Whoopi Goldberg's argument, and the result was a double whammy that left Whoopi's reputation swaying like a toddler learning to walk, on roller skates. Joe Ryan and Charlie Kirk never actually got in a ring together. They didn't tag team Whoopi in any interviews or intersect in some explosive showdown.
Disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump, uneducated white women.
Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. But I said this to our team. I said working people, the muscular class, including working women, they are so in favor of Trump, and they don't want to be called stupid or uneducated.
When the internet took off, memes appeared more quickly than you could imagine. Whoopi Meltdown. The hashtags went viral like wildfire, and suddenly, Whoopi Goldberg was no longer the unstoppable media titan. Instead, she was the target of a viral joke that even her own fan base found difficult to defend. Late-night comedians and random Twitter philosophers all jumped in to analyze what went wrong, and how someone with decades of experience in the spotlight was taken down so easily by two commentators who, let's face it, probably wouldn't have crossed paths in any other situation. The answer is the stark contrast in style and the constant pressure of today's public discourse. Whoopi's arguments were reduced to their most basic elements by Joe Rogan's meticulous, nearly forensic approach, revealing all of their weaknesses. Any credibility she might have attempted to maintain was destroyed by Charlie Kirk's aggressive, in-your-face approach, leaving a smoldering pile of, wait, what was she even thinking? It was similar to seeing a cat that just discovered the vacuum cleaner was back on, bewildered, terrified, and searching for a safe hiding place, but there was nowhere to hide as Whoopi attempted to recover. The world was watching, the cameras were rolling, and tweets were flying.
Worried about losing your job, and you're worried about podcasts taking over, and who's the source of news, and we said Donald Trump was Hitler, but half the country disagreed with us, and he won, and this is and Joe Rogan believes in dragons. Do you see what Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said this on.
Here's a small secret now. Whoopi didn't even reply. There was no public apology, no explanation, no effort to correct the record. Just nothing. It was the sound of a media giant being brought to her knees by two very different but equally devastating verbal assaults. Perhaps she was regrouping, reevaluating her life choices, or simply deciding that the less said, the better. This is what made the entire story so deliciously satisfying for anyone who enjoys a good take-on, because let's face it, watching someone who has been a media force for decades get blitzed by two guys who are media forces of nature, one with his philosophical grilling and the other with his political grenade launcher, was like the quintessential underdog story, except that the underdogs were giants in their own right, and the giant who fell wasn't just anybody. Ultimately, this was more than just one woman's moment in the spotlight. It was a microcosm of the modern cultural battlefield where anyone can be called out, roasted, and memed into oblivion. It demonstrated that, regardless of how famous you are, the rules of engagement have changed and that you will be eliminated if you enter the ring unprepared.
I don't want to say too much, but we're going to have a lot of fun at the Department of Education. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Can I tell you something? Like, I've had quite a few people contact me about that particular post. Like, I'm sure I have 1/100th of what you're getting, but people are contacting me about cabinet posts. I'm like, I got
look,
nothing.
I mean, yeah, I'm actually, after this conversation, heading to Mar-a-Lago for a week. And we have a lot to sift through. And if I could be helpful, I have asked. I want to be actively involved in all things education, as you can imagine.
Whoopi Goldberg, the seasoned media titan, abruptly lost her composure and became a sobbing mess on live TV while clutching a tissue box and pleading for mercy. The famed breakdown sounds dramatic, doesn't it? But what does breakdown mean in this context? Spoiler alert. It wasn't an Oscar-worthy sob session or a meltdown captured on camera like a reality show finale. Rather, it was more subdued and sneaky, consisting of a series of tone shifts and obvious irritation, along with perhaps a hint of, well, this isn't going as planned. This Whoopi, who is typically the queen of sarcasm and swift retorts, is attempting to deal with the fallout from Joe Rogan's painstaking deconstruction and Charlie Kirk's verbal sledgehammer. Think less soap opera and more slow leak in the confidence tire picture. It's similar to seeing a stand-up comic midway through their best joke abruptly miss the punchline. Her normally sharp, confident voice wavered just enough to send a subtle but unmistakable signal. This wasn't the breezy commentary she's known for, and it was awkward, telling, and oddly captivating. Was she trying to defend herself? More like someone throwing a life preserver made of wet noodles? The defensive moves were there, but they lacked that typical Whoopi flair.
Is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a
the real clue was in the tone, which was less snappy and more measured, as if someone had suddenly realized they might have wandered into a very different arena than expected. Instead of retaliating with her usual bite, It felt like she was tiptoeing through a minefield of facts and counterpoints that just kept blowing up underfoot. She may have been shifting blame a little, but in the most tactful, let's not point fingers kind of way that only seasoned pros can master when they're caught off guard. This moment was minor, yet it swiftly became a turning point in the feud you witness. The media equivalent of that cool aunt who always knows exactly what to say and when to say it, Whoopi's public persona has long been a stronghold of confidence, sharp wit, and cultural savvy. However, in this instance, the crack displayed only a few seconds of hesitation, a slight faltering in delivery, and then the narrative abruptly flipped. The invincible, Whoopi was made human and vulnerable, and both detractors and admirers find her vulnerability to be like blood in the sea in the brutal media world of today. Experts and fans didn't waste time jumping on this. Media analysts painted it as a classic example of the pressures facing even the most experienced commentators today. No one is untouchable anymore, they mused, nodding gravely over coffee and think. Pieces, fans. While some felt sorry for Whoopi, seeing her as the victim of an unfair pylon, others, they grabbed their popcorn, thrilled at the rare sight of the mighty being humbled. Well, it is the show that people love to hate. Yes, that's true. They get so much hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is an rabies-infested henhouse. The general consensus this moment might mark a turning point for Whoopi's credibility when your usual armor cracks you, become easier to target, and the long game for media longevity suddenly looks a lot less certain. But here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just a personal blow-up between three media personalities. Nope. This is a microcosm of the bigger cultural wars tearing through society right now. The Whoopi, Rogan, and Kirk saga highlights how the battleground has shifted from hushed editorial offices and polite panel discussions to loud-spined arenas where every word is weaponized and every misstep magnified 1,000-fold. Joe Ryan and Charlie Kirk are two powerful but very different voices influencing this chaotic landscape. While Kirk's firebrand conservatism rallies a base hungry for audacious, unapologetic viewpoints, Ryan's blend of skepticism and intellectual curiosity appeals to those weary of superficial sound bites. Together, they demonstrate how powerful personalities now have enormous influence over public opinion, not just reporting news, but also shaping it, sometimes with disastrous results for anyone caught in the crossfire. Whoopi's collapse highlights the tremendous pressure on media personalities to not only have an opinion, but also to survive.